Jamaica's Bryan Levell truly showed up and showed out at the Grand Slam track meet in Philadelphia this past weekend. And if you watched my predictions for Grand Slam, you know that I unfortunately didn't pick him very high up. So yes, he proved me wrong. I was, completely way off, underestimated him. We'll talk about that in a second. But I do want to talk about how Bryan Levell is in a very great position as he leads up to the Jamaican Trials at the end of June and has a very good shot to not only make the World Championship team in the 200, but potentially in that 100 meters as well. Now, first off, in 2024, Bryan Levell started to make a name for himself coming out of high school as a very young athlete with a lot of talent. He went to the Jamaican Trials in June and competed in both the 100 and the 200. In the 100, he finished 4th place, just missing a spot to the Olympic Games, only behind Kishane Thompson, Oblique Seville, and Ackeem Blake, 3 of the best athletes in Jamaican history and, of course, the current era of Jamaican sprinting in the 100-meter dash specifically. But Bryan then stepped things up to the 200 and not only made the team to the Olympic Games, but he became the Jamaican national champion in the 200 meters at trials that year. On top of that, in the 100, he ran a personal best of 9.98 seconds at trials. He then followed that up in the 200, running a personal best of 19.97 seconds. So in combination, all these performances at the 2024 Jamaican Trials prove that Bryan Levell is not only one of the next best rising talents, but he would be a force to reckon with as we look forward into the future for Jamaican sprinting. Now, fast forward to the Olympic Games, and Bryan went on to compete in the 200, making it all the way to the semifinals in Paris. And again, this was just an opportunity and a breakout for Bryan in 2024, really putting his mark on the track, saying, I am going to be a force in the coming years. Well, as we look forward to 2025, Bryan kicked off his season running a few races early on, specifically opening up with a 400 in early February, and then he ran a few 60-meter races in February and March as well. Then the outdoor season fully came, and in April, he kicked things off with 100, eventually running a best of 10.05 seconds at one of the Velocity Fest races down in Kingston, Jamaica. That was the 3rd fastest time of his career up to that point, after the 9.98 as well as a 10.04 that he had run in 2024, and kind of did prove that he was in some excellent form, and he was very likely going to continue on that trajectory that he had built up in 2024. Well, after a straight 200-meter best of 20.06 seconds at the Adidas Atlantic City Games, he actually got the invitation to compete as a challenger in Grand Slam track in Philadelphia. And this would probably, outside of the Olympic Games as well as the Jamaican Trials, be the biggest stage and opportunity to showcase his talents that he would have, again, over the past year since he really had a breakout coming out of high school. Well, at the Grand Slam track meet in Philly, Bryan Levell truly showed up and showed out and took advantage of the opportunity. 100 meters, he finished 2nd place to Kenny Bednarek, running a best of 10.02 seconds, which was the 2nd fastest performance of his entire career, which really just backed up the 10.05 he had run early in the year, and of course the performances he had done in 2024. He then followed that up the day before in the 200, finishing 5th place in 20.6, but I don't think the time was truly indicative of his talent. The thing that really stuck out to me is that Bryan was able to not only beat out, but simply be competitive with some of the best athletes in the world. Kenny Bednarek, Zarnell Hughes, Andre DeGrasse, Aaron Brown, Christian Coleman. You're talking about many of these athletes have medals either in the 100, 200, or both, or in the 4x1 at the Olympics or the World Championships. And Bryan Levell, this young kid from Jamaica, is now making his name. Now, like I said, I did significantly underestimate Bryan Levell here, partially because I did think that some of the other athletes, they either had faster seasons best, or I looked at them as having a little more potential as it relates specifically to Grand Slam Track Philly, or I thought that they would potentially take a bigger advantage of the stage here in Philly. Again, I completely underestimated. Shout out to Olaya, who said I was and who definitely, proved me wrong. But Bryan Levell specifically, he proved me wrong, but I am all the more happy for it. I'm very excited to see what he does going into the Jamaican Trials this year, which is in just a few weeks at the end of June. And the question on my mind is, could he actually make the team in both the 100 and the 200 this year to the World Championships in September? Now, let's be clear, it's going to be very challenging, specifically in that 100. Jamaica has Kishane Thompson, Oblique Seville, as well as Ackeem Blake, who are 3 of the best guys in the world right now. And they, of course, got top 3 at the trials last year, and they're probably favored to go top 3 again this year. But remember, last year, Bryan Levell finished 4th place behind those 3 guys. Now that he's looking to make a little more progress, his 10.02 does make him one of the fastest Jamaicans in the world this year, but we will see some of these other guys step up, whether it's an Oblique Seville, whether it's a Kishane, whether it's an Ackeem Blake, right? Those guys are definitely going to step up, but there is a window of opportunity for someone like Bryan to actually spoil the party. But in the 200, I do think that Bryan is going to be very, very comfortable to be able to make that team. We unfortunately haven't seen as much progress in the 200 from Jamaica really since Usain Bolt retired back in 2017, and there's been a little bit of a void. Over the past couple championships, we've only seen 2 or so athletes from Jamaica actually go to Olympics or World Championships, and not the full slate of 3 that Jamaica would normally send. Someone like Bryan, having run sub 20 last year, having proved that he can show up at a big meet like Jamaican Trials, like a Grand Slam track, I don't have many worries as it comes to him making the team in the 200, and he very likely could go sub 20 once again in Kingston at the end of this month. But in the 100, there is an opportunity for him to actually spoil the party in a way that we may not be ready for. One thing to take into consideration is that right now, though Kishane Thompson, he's in some great form, has already run sub 10 seconds. Ackeem Blake has already run sub 10, but he is injured right now, so there is a question mark there. Oblique Seville, he also is injured right now, so there is a question mark there. But I think personally that Oblique and Ackeem, they're going to be in some good form by the time they get to trials. Someone like Oblique, he has been able to show up and show out every single year, even despite many injuries and setbacks that he faced. He's been able to make every single global final since 2022 at the World Championships and the Olympic Games. Someone like Kishane Thompson, he's an Olympic silver medalist from last year in Paris. Someone like Ackeem Blake, he's actually made, the 2022, 2024 World and Olympic teams in the 100-meter dash. So these guys are very, very solid. But circle back to 2023. This is not out of the realm of possibility. Remember, Oblique Seville actually finished 3rd place in the 100 at Jamaican Trials behind Raheem Ford as well as Rohan Watson. Ackeem Blake actually finished outside the top 3 and didn't compete at the World Championships in Budapest individually in the 100. So this isn't completely far-fetched to say that someone like Bryan Lavell could truly step things up and spoil the party in the 100 for the top 3 guys, potentially giving Bryan the opportunity to make it in both the 100 and the 200. But this is just all speculation. It's going to be interesting to see how things unfold when we do get to trials at the end of June. And then if Jamaica is able to qualify, I would love to see Bryan potentially run on that 4x1 where you have Ackeem Blake, Oblique Seville, Bryan Lavell, and Kishane Thompson, all 4 potentially in that order, running down the track and getting to a medal at the World Championships. Now, they do still have to qualify. That's a whole other thing, but that would be a really interesting lineup that I would love to see. But let me know what you think of Bryan Lavell. I'm excited to watch his progression over the next couple weeks as we get to trials, and then potentially over the next few months leading into the World Championships and the next few years as he's still a young rising talent. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Always do appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching.